Today we are going to be learning about the text structures between two passages and looking at the clue words that identify what type of text structure it is. During this time, you're going to be following along and reading your story as I read it aloud. There will be times where you need to talk to your neighbor. You need to do so in a voice level 1. We're going to start by looking at the title. The title of one passage is Florida Keys. The title of the second passage is Keep Coral Reefs Healthy. When I think about those two titles, I think about things like the ocean and animals that might live inside the ocean. Next, I'm going to look at the questions. Question 1 says, Part A, which statement best describes a major difference between the text structure of Florida Keys and keeping coral reefs healthy? I see the word describe in that question, and describe makes me think, tell me all about it. I also see the word difference, and that is things that are not alike. In Part B, it says, choose one sentence from each passage that supports the answer to Part A. I see the word support, and support means back it up. So we're going to find one detail from each passage that's going to back up how they are not alike. You have 2 more questions in your packet. I'd like you to take about 1 minute and read your questions silently to yourself and unravel the questions and important words inside the question. Go. You have about 30 more seconds to unravel your question 2 and question 3. Good. Now we're going to come back together, and while I go through and unravel our passage, I'd like you to follow along with your finger. So we have underlined the title, Florida Keys, and the second title is Keeping Coral Reefs Healthy. We did predict about that passage and said that it's probably going to be about the ocean. Next is our run through and number. Keeping Coral Reefs Healthy, we have 5 paragraphs, and in the Florida Keys, we have 8 paragraphs. Next is are the important words circled. In this case, it's text features, and we have several. In the Florida Keys, we have an illustration here that we need to make sure we look at. There's also a caption, and captions tell us what is happening in the photo, and that is right here. On page, I'm not sure what page, but the next page we have another illustration, and I see maybe divers or there's some type of seaweed, and there's a caption, and the caption is explaining what's going on in the picture. So that's an illustration here and a caption here. Going on to the next passage, Keeping Coral Reefs Healthy, I see an illustration or a photograph here of animals in the ocean, and I see words to know and bold words. Those bold words are benefit, fragile, and substance. In Florida Keys, our words to know are colonies, structure, and habitats. So we have now gone through and identified important text structures and the different text features inside the text structure, and we have read the question. So it's time to venture through the passage. Keys. July 12th. So far our summer vacation in Key Largo has been great. We went to Pennicamp Coral Reef State Park yesterday, took a tour on a glass-bottom boat, and saw some amazing coral reefs. Did you know that Florida Keys have the only living coral barriers in North America? Our guide told us that the reef is made out of coral polyps. These tiny sea animals have soft bodies and live in warm, shallow waters. They form large colonies and are connected to one another. When the polyps die, they leave behind hard limestone skeleton. Over time, the layers skeleton build up and form a structure called a reef. A coral reef grows slowly upward from the ocean floor and may only grow 1 inch every year. On the top of the reef, there are thousands of living coral polyps. Because coral polyps are animals, they need to eat food. At night, they reach out their tentacles or long feelers to catch food that floats by. They also get their food from tiny algae that live inside of them. The algae use the sun's energy to produce food. I see that picture at the bottom. I'm going to look at the caption now. Check out this close-up photo of a coral polyp. It clearly shows the tentacles, the long feelers that they use to catch food. I see there in that caption, it is giving us a context clue. So it's telling us that tentacles are long feelers, and that type of context clue is a definition context clue. Moving on to the next page, paragraph 4. Many types of animals live in the coral reefs in Key Largo. They swim and hide among 40 kinds of soft and hard corals. I saw colorful tropical fish, spiny lobsters, and sea urchins. Shrimps and crabs also live in coral reefs. Last year, our family took a trip to California. There, I had a chance to look up at kelp forests up close. Both kelp forests and coral reefs are underwater habitats. Kelp is long brown algae that lives in cool, shallow waters. Similar to coral polyps, kelp needs sunlight and a hard surface in order to grow. Kelp has 3 parts: the holdfast, the strip, and the blade. The holdfast is the part of that attaches to the ocean floor. The strip connects the holdfast to the blade, and the blade is the leafy part that takes in sunlight and converts it to food. Kelp forests form when kelp grows closely in crowded groups, like coral reefs. Kelp forests provide homes for many kinds of sea life, including fish, jellyfish, sea urchins, and otters. These animals can hide in long, swaying kelp. Kelp can grow 2 feet a day. At Monterey Bay Aquarium, I saw kelp that grew 28 feet high, but some giant kelp reaches the height of 200 feet. I like going to places where I can learn while having fun. Okay, we're going to look at the illustration now and read the caption. The caption said, I took this photo while scuba diving in a kelp forest off the coast of California. The base at the upper left looks pretty cozy. This is a natural habitat after all. Very cool. All right, we're going to go on to our next passage called Keeping Coral Reefs Healthy. Okay. Paragraph 1. Coral reefs are extremely important. Known as the rainforests of the sea, they provide homes for millions of different plants and animals. Coral reefs support roughly 25% of all ocean creatures. Furthermore, they benefit from economy by encouraging tourism and the fishing industry. Also, they provide ingredients to make new medicines. We must try to protect our fragile coral reefs. The coral reefs are made of small animals called polyps. Coral polyps are sensitive. They often react to changes in their environment. For example, one change that causes harm to coral reefs is a rise in the water temperature. Usually, Coral lives in water that is 70 degrees Fahrenheit to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. If the temperature rises by only 1 or 2 degrees, coral polyps become stressed. As a result, they will expel or push out the little tiny plants called algae that live inside their bodies. However, coral polyps need these algae to survive. The algae provides oxygen and food. Without algae, a coral polyp cannot get enough food. Therefore, they may starve and die. If algae are expelled, coral polyps change color. They turn chalky white because their brilliant colors came from algae in their tissues. This process is known as coral bleaching. Bleached coral reefs can sometimes recover. However, a large number of coral polyps may die as a result of bleaching. One of the worst examples of coral bleaching happened in 1998. About 16% of the coral reefs around the world were damaged or died. Another threat to coral reefs is pollution. Acid rain, oil spills, and chemical fertilizers cause water pollution. These substances poison coral polyps and other animals that live in coral reefs. Coral polyps can only grow in very clear water with plenty of sunlight. The algae that live in coral polyps use sunlight to make food, but water pollution makes the water cloudy. There is less sunlight, so algae cannot make food for the coral polyps. We can help preserve and protect our precious coral reefs. First, we need to reduce the air and water pollution. One way to do this is walk or ride a bike instead of using a car. Another way is to stop littering and dumping harmful chemicals into the ocean. You don't have to live near an ocean to help coral reefs. Let's start today. Alright, I'm going to give you guys about 4 minutes to now go through your story with your group and look for clue words in the first passage, Florida Keys. So the first part is you're going to go with your group and look for clue words in Florida Keys to identify what type of text structure this passage is. Okay, so in Florida Keys, we have clue words that tell us which type of passage this is. This passage can either be a comparison text or a cause and effect, because those are the two text structures we're looking at this week. In the second page, I see that there is a shift in what they are talking about. Before they are talking about the different coral reefs, and then they begin talking about the kelp in California. So looking at the two text features of illustrations, I see that there are two things that they're talking about. When they talk about the coral reefs and when they talk about the kelp, they are comparing and contrasting these kelp and coral reefs. So if your group said this was compare and contrast, that is correct. And the next one, keeping coral reefs healthy, I heard a lot of things that were happening to coral reefs, and I heard words like as a result and therefore. Looking at as a result and therefore, I know that keeping the coral reefs healthy is going to be cause and effect. It's telling us the cause of coral reefs dying and the effect that it's having on the environment. So what you're going to do now is go back with your group and write down the clue words that you found in both passages. Then begin answering the questions in your packet.